action. All right, people, this is a building show, like how to paint buildings. The building we're doing, it's going to be this side right here. Previous show, we did the brick building wall on that side. Now we're going to be completing this one over here. And there's a great wall reference as far as painting walls go is Caesar Gallica. I think I'm butchering the name, but that's okay. I'll start with like a gray base. So everything could be grayish with a little bit of blue. You want to change color quite a bit, so that's really blue. So what I do is, when you're painting, you have a vanishing point going this direction. Over here, it's about level, and it's going to go up a little bit at the bottom. So when you're painting walls, you want a couple things. You want really clean edges on the side. So what I like to do is just to milk the kitten a little bit and push up into the edge. So your edge is going to be really clean. You don't want single brush strokes like this, but I just like doing that at first, get a clean edge, and then I'll jack it up later. So I want that edge to be really clean. Same thing with the top. So on the top, if I go like this, I won't be able to get a clean edge. You have to push up this direction to get a clean edge there as well. Especially if you have a nice brush, which I do not. All right, so now I got that. So before this dries, a singular brush stroke, I'm gonna go back into it and mess it up a little bit by going different directions. The different directions is either going to the vanishing point or straight up and down. Don't get too creative with how you're doing that. The other thing you want to work on is your value changes. Like in the shadow there, I'll put like a little bit of raw umber and black in here to show that it's going away from the sun more or less. And so I'm going to go following the contour of the building here. Then change values too, so don't have the same value all the way down. So even if you're doing an interior wall, you want to mix it up a little bit. So I'll probably go a little bit darker as I go down here. It goes away from the sun a little bit more. I'll go a clean edge here. Push this direction to get a clean edge on this side. You can even turn your, flip your canvas around if it's easier for you to get a clean edge. Go in that direction. And change color again. And then what I do is after I have the base coat on, which is coming up here, and you want to make sure it looks like you're changing color quite a bit. So if you paint up close, you might go, ooh, I'm changing color. Then you get back and you go, oh man, I was not changing color nearly enough or value. Hold on, I can't breathe yet. There we go. Okay, so the clean edge again, going straight up and down, vanishing point, straight up and down again here, smaller strokes, nothing too long. Then, once again, this is all a base coat. So as I go up here, it's going to get a little bit darker as it goes into this like little corner. I'll make that transition pretty smooth, and I go to the vanishing point on that, so it's like darker plane here, and medium, and get lighter down here on the bottom. All right, so the other thing is, with buildings, try to avoid showing any of your brush strokes. So as an example, I'll show you here. So like right here, I'll exaggerate it more so you can see it better at home. Okay, so those brush strokes are terrible. So all you have to do to get rid of those, you can either use a sponge or use a paper towel going into it. So, and the paper towel depends on how thick the paint is. You can use like either a damp paper towel, or you can wad up a dry one like this, crumble it up a little bit, and for added texture, you just want to like hit it a little bit, and you'll get rid of like all those brush strokes. So you don't want to have brush strokes on a wall. Generally speaking, when you look at artists that paint, you won't really see the brush strokes. So you could have brush strokes for brick walls on the other hand. That's good because the brush strokes represent all the bricks that you have in there. So now I'll go in here. Color interpretation. I have some black here, right there on the top. Blur it out a little bit. And then once again, this is all a base coat. So with buildings, you should have at least, I would say, 4 layers of paint. That'll make it look pretty good. And then I'll do some raw umber. A little bit of raw umber in there just to murk it up a little bit so it looks like it has some color, so people look at it and they go, what color is that? It's so mysterious. I call it mysterious color mixing. I wonder what burnt sienna would do in there. I always like adding burnt sienna. So now it goes down like this, comes out halfway decent. Now we'll let that dry a little bit. All right, we'll pretend it's dry now, actually. Well, I'll give it like two seconds. 1001, 1002, and done. All right, so now here's another trick. Also, once again, you want to get rid of all the natural brush strokes. It's okay to show something that has some texture. Don't be afraid of texture, just not the brushstroke texture. All right, so I'll mix up a lighter tint, for instance, on this. This is one of many tricks or techniques. A little bit of brown, so I'm doing brown and white. And painting that right on the edge here. Scoop it up. So I got a little bead of paint. You can see how much paint I have on there. Decent amount. Bristol board would be a little bit better, this kind of flimsy paper. Then what you can do, I'll bend up the corners so you don't have hard edges. Take that and then lightly put this on top. This is like another layer. And don't stab and pull, otherwise it'll be obvious how you did it. You want to hide all your techniques. And clear, your reference is hella boring. So I would probably add some more texture to it. Be better than your reference. And like you're saying, your original reference is brown. Would go with your idea of like a bluish gray or something that's a little bit different. I have chunks over here. Blur that out. Kind of stumbling, going around in circles. So I have a darker version, now I have a lighter version. It should be kind of fun. Jacking up the walls. And now it looks like a palette knife. So it looks like a palette knife. So how do I get rid of that? I could use paper towels. I'll show you that technique again. To get rid of some of this, because you don't want it like obvious like how you did it. So you don't want it to look like a palette knife. You don't want it to look like a brush. If I take paper towels, that could work pretty well. Just kind of tap it on there. I can also take a sponge and feather out some of this. And once again, if you're working on abstract walls, I recommend watching this. There's like some good techniques to it. All right, so now I have like a variety. So it's like a little bit of a variety going all the way up here. This is kind of simple. Now I'm going to show you another technique. This is using a side of a brush. You obviously don't need all of these techniques for every wall, but variety's good. So here, using the side of the brush, kind of like a palette knife, but you get more paint that comes off right up here. And I don't want it to look like brush strokes or like a palette knife. So I'm letting the brush is almost totally flat against the canvas. Barely lift it up, use the side of it. This technique also works for dirt and what have you. All right, so I got another layer. And then up here on the top, I'll do the same thing, a different color. And sponge to get rid of that technique. So it's kind of like technique and paper towel. Technique and sponge. Now I'll start to get that layered look to it. So it has like a little oxidization, a little variety in there. And it doesn't take that long. Although you probably should have it dry a little bit first in between layers, which I don't have time for. Magic show. So this is going to be a little bit lighter, but not much. The shadows. I'm doing the same techniques. However, it's going to be 10% lighter or so, but it's going to be a lot darker than this. With the sponge again, kind of like the corner of it. Tap a little bit, back up. Tap, go back. I call it the tap and back. Tap, go back and look at it. And the other thing with walls is you want to make sure if you go really close to the wall, yes, you can see all the variety, but you want to also get back kind of further to be able to see it. You can see it from further away. All right, so now I'm going to show you a little bit of force lifting. These are all abstract techniques, but they work really well with walls. If you can paint walls really well, you can do abstract. Walls are a great way to practice abstract techniques. And here, I'm gonna just come with a glaze. So this is a light glaze right here I'm putting on. Scumble. Glaze is just watery paint, that's all it is. Watery paint, and I'll feather it out a little bit. Now it goes even darker down here on the bottom. A little bit of an edge to it, so it's kind of a little nicer looking. All right, now the next trick I'm gonna show you guys. This is a very tricky show. I'm busting out all the magic. All right. Another thing you can do to have it more distressed looking is build up a shade of the color. So it's like this color plus a little bit of black plus a little bit of brown. So I got the color. Now I'm gonna do a little bit of brown. Now a little bit of black. Like a shadow of that color. I'll test it out, see how it's doing. That might be a little bit too dark. I'll lighten it up just a titch. Okay, so watch this. So with this, with a reference kind of thing, go in here, do like a little nugget, like a little chipping plaster. Tap it so it's a little bit faint. I'll do another chunk here. And these chunks will help it look kind of distressed and kind of cool. I'll do one more patch here. Use reference for the shape of the patches. All right, so right now I got little patches here, there for the chipping plaster. It's a gradient, like a shade of the color. Now, here's where it gets kind of cool. I'm gonna take black, almost pure black, and at the top of all those shapes, outline a little bit. So I'll melt the kitten, get a fine point. A small line on the top, small line on top here. It doesn't have to be a solid outline either. You can have some of it, leave some of it alone. I went like just a little bit on the top. Over here, I'll do the same thing. Pew. Then, this is where it gets good. Hope you guys are sitting down. I don't want you guys to get weak in the knees and fall. Hey, right, so a little bit of white tint, just on the very bottom. So it's not like pure white, it's like a tint of the color. And when you put that on there, that makes it look like it's like indentation, more or less. Down here, I'll do a little more white on that thing as well. Now with those, I got little patches of plaster that are coming off, more or less. All right, now the next thing. And once again, I'm showing you like a lot of different techniques. You can do like one or two on each wall. I'm showing you like a variety of what you can do with these things. I'll take a little burnt sienna and a little burnt umber and a sponge. This is raw umber, but close enough. So with this, if you have streaks like this, where it's chipping, you could have a little bit of drain coming down, iron oxide or something like that coming down here. Take a sponge, pull it down a little bit so it fades a little bit more. I'll do the same thing here. It's like a brush stroke. Just bend the sponge a little bit like that and pull down. I'll do the same thing here. So if water's down here, it's probably gonna come down here a lot more. So I'll go down here, bend the sponge a little bit, and drag it down. And I can do like a seam down this whole thing here. So with this, I start with a brush coming down. Then I'll take the sponge, bend it, drag it. I'll push it harder and harder as I go down. So I'll leave it kind of thick up there. Get more translucent as it comes down, so it's just a glaze. It's another layer of paint on that paint. All right, there's a lot of other techniques you can use on that, but for now it's pretty good. You can use a toothbrush splatter, you can use force lifting, a whole variety, but that is a pretty good start. And I'll zoom in so you can see it.